It is 6:47 p.m. You push open the door. Your dog launches himself at your legs, tail whipping side to side, entire body vibrating. You drop your bag. You smile. You think, this is the best part of my day. This is why your dog does not settle when you leave. This is why he paces. The relief you feel when you come home is real, but it is your relief. Your dog is experiencing something closer to the cessation of a low-grade panic state. You were never taught to see this. You were taught that dogs love us. And the longer you are gone, the more his body pays for it. Cortisol does not stay elevated without cost. This is not your fault. You were not told that leaving your dog alone for 8 hours is not neutral. You were told that dogs are resilient. Most people do not know what their dog looks like when he is calm. They know what he looks like when he is waiting. This does not mean you have failed him. It means you are both operating inside a system that was not designed for an animal whose entire evolutionary history is built around constant social contact. Your dog was bred from wolves who lived in packs, who moved together, who were never alone. But you can reduce that cost. Not by training him to tolerate your absence, not by giving him more toys or a bigger crate or a second dog. You reduce it by changing the way his nervous system interprets your departure, and that starts long before you leave. Sit on the floor for 5 minutes before you go. Do not talk, do not pet him, just sit. Let your dog's breathing slow. When his body stops scanning, when his eyes soften, when he lies down without being told, his parasympathetic system is online. That is the state you want him in when you leave. Not excited, not anxious, regulated. Then leave without ceremony, no goodbye, no long eye contact, no I'll be back soon, just go. When you return, do the same. Walk in, put your things down, sit on the floor, wait for his body to stop vibrating, wait for the cortisol to clear, wait for the system to reset. Only then do you engage. You are not withholding affection. You are teaching his nervous system that your presence is not an emergency, that your absence is not a crisis, that the world does not hinge on whether you are in the room. This will not fix everything, but it will stop you from reinforcing the very pattern you are trying to break. Watch your dog tonight, not what he does, what his body does. The breathing, the muscle tension, the eye movement, those are the variables that matter. Those are the ones his nervous system is tracking, and those are the ones you can change. Current stage, 神经系统视角, nervous system perspective. Stage goal, force perspective, flip into the animal's sensory and nervous system. Don't talk about emotions, only about signals, safety, threat assessment. Use academic vocabulary, cortisol, sympathetic nervous system, etc. Previous segment summary. About the owner coming home at 6:47 p.m. Dog launches at legs, tail whipping, misanthropy, the dog's nervous system tracking signals. Next segment hint. Animal-assisted therapy for autistic children. What I need to write, segment 2.5. The nervous system perspective. Flip into the dog's body, cold neurophysiology, signals/safety threat assessment, not emotions. Source material analysis. The source material talks about emotional support animals, therapy dogs, animal-assisted therapy. This is about the human benefit side. But my current stage is nervous system perspective. I need to flip the perspective to the dog's internal nervous system. Per instruction 12, if the raw source slice content cannot support the current stage task, you have authority to diverge based on global materials and forcibly lock onto the current stage task. So I need to write from inside the dog's nervous system. What signals is it processing? What is it assessing? Safety, threat, using cold neuroscience language. So this segment should pick up on the nervous system perspective, going deeper into what the dog's nervous system is actually doing. The segment needs to 1. Enter firmly into the dog's sensory/nervous system perspective. 2. Use academic vocabulary coldly. 3. Talk about signals, safety evaluation, threat assessment. 4. Not talk about love, bonding, emotions from the dog's perspective. 5. Around 200 and 658 characters. 6. End with a natural transition toward the next segment, academic breakdown/learning about these systems. Draft approach. Start from inside the dog's body, not from the human's perspective. Vomeronasal organ processing, cortisol signatures, sympathetic nervous system activation, what the dog is actually reading when you walk through the door. Gaze. The moment you step through that door, something happens inside your dog that has nothing to do with love. Start cold and precise. The dog's vomeronasal organ, a secondary olfactory structure located in the roof of its mouth, begins processing chemical data before you've even closed the door behind you. Cortisol leaves a signature, adrenaline leaves a different one. The sweat on your palms, the tension in your jaw, the slight elevation in your body temperature from the subway ride home. Your dog is reading all of it simultaneously through a sensory channel you don't have. This is not affection, this is threat assessment. The dog's sympathetic nervous system activates within seconds of detecting a novel stimulus, meaning you every single time, because the chemical data you're carrying today is not the same as yesterday. Its HPA axis, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal loop that governs stress responses, does not know the difference between my owner is home from a long day and an unfamiliar high cortisol entity has entered the territory. It knows threat levels. The reason this matters, and why researchers have begun mapping it carefully, is that the same system running inside your dog is precisely the system that makes it useful in contexts you wouldn't expect, not just your living room at 6:47 p.m., but clinical rooms, school corridors. The therapist sits across from a 6-year-old who hasn't spoken in 3 sessions. There's a golden retriever lying near the window. The therapist doesn't ask the child how she feels. Instead, she says, "The dog had a bad dream last night. What do you think scared him?" The child looks at the dog for a long time, then whispers, "Maybe someone yelled at him." That's projection. The child just told you what happened to her without ever saying I. This isn't magic, it's a documented neurological bypass. When a traumatized brain tries to access its own pain directly, the amygdala fires a threat response. The prefrontal cortex shuts down. Language centers go offline. But when you ask about the dog, the threat system stays quiet. The child's brain reads the question as low stakes. She can describe fear without triggering her own fear circuitry. Therapists call this externalizing. Neuroscientists call it affective distancing. Either way, the dog just gave that child a way to speak when her own nervous system wouldn't let her. Now look at the autistic children in equine therapy programs. These are kids who avoid eye contact, who flinch at human touch, who go nonverbal in social settings. Put them in a round pen with a horse, and something shifts. They watch the horse's ears. They notice when it steps closer or turns away. They start reading body language, not because a therapist told them to, but because the horse's communication system is clearer than ours. Horses don't use sarcasm. They don't lie with their faces. A flattened ear means back off. A lowered head means calm. The feedback is immediate and honest. What's happening in the child's brain during this? Their mirror neuron system is activating, but without the cognitive overload that human faces trigger. Human expressions require interpreting micro-movements, cultural context, tone of voice, hidden motives. A horse's body language operates on a simpler axis, safe or unsafe, calm or tense. The autistic child's pattern recognition ability, which is often hyper-developed, can finally work without getting jammed by social noise. They're learning to read emotional states, but through a cleaner signal. Then there's the veteran with PTSD learning to ride. His therapist didn't tell him to be present or practice mindfulness. She told him to keep his heels down and his weight centered, to notice when the horse speeds up, to feel the rhythm of the gait through his pelvis. This is forced proprioception. His brain has to track his body in space, monitor the horse's movement, adjust his balance in real time. There's no room left in his working memory for the intrusive images. The hypervigilance that usually scans for threats is now scanning for the horse's next step. This is why the therapy animal doesn't need to do anything special. It doesn't need to be trained to sense anxiety or comfort distress. It just needs to exist as a non-human entity that demands attention without demanding performance. The dog in the therapy room isn't analyzing you. It's not forming judgments. It's not waiting for you to say the right thing. It's simply there, breathing, existing, offering a focal point that isn't wrapped up in your trauma narrative. The clinical term is social buffering. When a stressed mammal is near a calm mammal, its HPA axis starts to downregulate, cortisol drops, heart rate variability improves. But here's the part most people miss. This works better with animals than with humans for traumatized individuals because animals don't trigger the social evaluation system. The dog's presence lowers your cortisol without activating the part of your brain that's scanning for rejection, judgment, or abandonment. You don't have to perform emotional labor to keep the dog calm. It's already calm. That's the whole point. Current stage. Forgiveness, absolution bridge. Stage 4 of 5. This is segment 4-5. Output must be 100% English. Memo 2769 characters minus. Must feel like long-form video narration, not short-form fragments. Must lock on dogs only, no cats. U-shaped emotion arc for this segment. The self-blame is already present from prior segments. Now we release it. Transition toward the micro-action. Source material is thin on the forgiveness angle, so I need to use global material and extrapolate based on stage mission. The forgiveness bridge needs to 1. Acknowledge the guilt self-blame the viewer has been feeling. 2. Reframe. You were reading a safety system with human assumptions. 3. Release them from self-blame. 4. Not moralize or lecture, just quietly, precisely land the truth. 5. End with a natural transition toward the micro-action. Stage 5. End with a natural transition toward the micro-action. Stage 5. The viewer has learned their dog's behavior, pacing, whining, destructive behavior isn't spite or manipulation. It's a nervous system running stress protocols, HPA axis, cortisol, sympathetic activation. The forgiveness bridge catches them there. Key moves. 1. Name the guilt directly. Don't dance around it. 2. Reframe the source of the misread. Humans are wired to project emotional intent, theory of mind, social cognition. This is the default human operating system, not a character flaw. 3. The dog's system and your system were never designed to be immediately legible to each other. You've been translating without a dictionary. 4. The guilt itself might be evidence of how much you care, but caring isn't the same as knowing. 5. You weren't failing your dog, you were being human, reading a biological system you were never taught to read. Moral truth. Draft. The guilt probably arrived quietly, not in a dramatic moment, but somewhere between one paragraph and the next, a slow realization that you've been misreading something for years. Maybe you thought your dog was stubborn, attention-seeking, dramatic, and now you're sitting with the possibility that what you called stubbornness was a nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do. That feeling, the one that wants to go back and do it differently, is real, but it's also pointing in the wrong direction. The problem is not that you did this, the problem is that your dog doesn't have the hardware to send that signal. What looked like protest was pressure in a physiological system that has no other output. The pacing was the HPA axis cycling through its discharge routine. The whining was the vagus nerve doing its job. There was no emotional message encoded in either. You were reading a transmission that wasn't addressed to you. You were never given a translation guide. No one handed you a chart that shows what elevated cortisol looks like in real time, or what a dog's interdigital glands are telling you when they leave a scent trail on your floor. You were given a dog, and you did your best with the interpretive tools your own species gave you. That's not negligence, that's the default condition. The owners who cause the most damage are not the ones who misread stress signals. They're the ones who never notice there's a signal at all. You noticed. You're here. That distinction matters more than you might think. What you were experiencing as a communication failure was actually something more specific, a cross-species signal mismatch. Your dog was broadcasting on one frequency, you were tuned to another. Neither set was broken, they were just never designed to interface without some translation in between. The dog waiting by the door right now is not holding a record of your misreads. Its nervous system does not archive grievances the way yours does. What it tracks is the present, your posture, your pace, the rate of your breathing, the cortisol signature in the air around you. It is reading you in real time, and it is doing so without any concept of the guilt you're currently feeling. Which means the correction doesn't require an apology, it requires a shift, small, physical, and available to you right now.
Institute code.
Stronger forgiveness framing, more physiological specificity, natural transition into stage 5, micro-action. You don't need to force yourself into daily 2-hour training sessions or buy specialized equipment. Start with 5 minutes on the floor. Sit where your dog usually watches you leave. Don't call them over. Don't initiate contact. Just exist in that space without the pre-departure routine. No keys, no coat, no shoes by the door. Watch what happens when your body is present but your departure cues are absent. Does your dog approach differently? Do they circle less? Try one session this week. Sit on the floor for 5 minutes in the spot where your dog usually watches you leave. Don't do anything else. Then come back and tell us what you saw. Did they approach, avoid, circle, settle, or something else entirely? Your observation matters more than any technique.